Hello, welcome to the after show for the final episode of Pirates of the Broken Skies. Hello, everybody, because this is everyone on YouTube we're talking to right now. Hello.
Hi.
Right. So, which of you is now the captain?
I think it's Sarah.
Really? Really?
If nobody opposes, Sarah will definitely self-proclaim captain.
I don't know.
She probably won't even try to have a discussion about it. She would probably just start doing the role and telling Miller.
Wait, I feel like Sora would just start doing captain stuff, and Lignus would just ignore that and carry on and run the ship.
I could see either way happening, and I think Zinzi would be content as long as stuff happens the way it should.
Totally. I think both at once until like we get to Turagoa.
Yeah, because Zinzi's not like a leader type of person. She's definitely more of like, just give me my gadgets and let me play with them.
It certainly has always seemed like Sarah had more of an eye for leadership than Lignus did. Who seemed
He definitely stepped up towards the end, though.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite things about this show is how much each character grew over the course of it, just in terms of like what they cared about and how they portrayed that through playing. Like, yeah, it was just.
Can we say that Edna joined us?
Yeah, totally.
Yay.
Sure. Yeah, so like survivors at Vault's Well include Edna Corpsley and Ellie Font, the widow of Vault. So major props to whoever submitted that name. I forget who it was, but it's an awesome name. Margie Wood, unfortunately, was lost in the defense of the docks, but the town of Vault's Well was successfully saved from Empire control.
Yay.
So
Ellie Fonte was submitted by Aurora Marie.
Nice. Thank you, Aurora Marie. Really well done. That was a great name. I loved it. And I loved the character that we built off of it. So awesome.
I think I used like 4 of the names for Mystery of Alethea too.
Yep.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Drive. There was an NPC name that I didn't get to use this time around, so I'll probably unflag it on the sheet so that y'all can grab it. But I just want to like talk about it because it's super cool.
Is this something that's gonna come up on the GM document things as well?
It might be in there
There's
somewhere.
a couple of things you include where like this is what you would have encountered if you'd gone this way.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was Lucien LeBlanc is someone important in Turagoa.
That's a good name.
I'll delete that. It's a great name. Yeah, absolutely. So I used Ellie Font, Artemis Baines, and Roxas Hawthorne as.
Yeah, I knew. That's what I was thinking. I was like, Roxas was the name.
Yeah.
I keep thinking Sever, but it was Roxas.
No, Sever was mine.
Yeah. Roxas was a good name too. It's different.
All of them were.
Now
good.
they need to submit cheese like Cheese Quest names, like mom and wife names and stuff.
It's gonna be fun trying to get names for that.
Yeah, Roxas Hawthorne, like when Lignus encountered Isla Verde, he was like, okay, next time I meet a druid, I'm gonna be like, hey, Isla Verde is a good place we can make a new home out of. And he's like, oh crap, it's already happened.
It's already been done.
Pay attention.
Yeah.
It's really hard to keep in touch when you're on pirate ships all the time.
Though, to be fair, it sounds like Rootholm was probably kind of like mostly barren rock, and then they were sort of growing something at the heart of it. But it certainly wasn't, a lush verdant isle the way Isla Verde was.
Return the sword from where it came.
Yeah.
Now their work is done.
Yeah.
And I'll make a bunch more of those blue flowers because that's all I know about that dead druid.
Yeah. So, like regarding the rules, what did y'all feel worked well? What did y'all feel worked not as well? I know that we've talked about how swashbuckling seems to rely a lot more heavily on acrobatics than strength. And I was trying to think of like, what are some other strength-based things where you're like pushing or shoving or
well, not only strength, but like if you're not like a dexterous or strength-based character, like if you're more an int-based character or wisdom, it'd be interesting if you could use that in some way. Like
I mean, I think you could probably use like your thinky parts just as much as you could use strength, really. Because if you knew the surroundings, you'd be like, oh, well, I know that the content of that oil is so much. So maybe you could like know more about the surroundings. But I think strength is just as disadvantaged. Like you just had a dog, and you could swashbuckle just because there was a dog there, whereas a strength character has nothing to go off. The same is true for any int characters or always characters.
I also think that charisma is a really obvious option for swashbuckling, just in terms of like all of the kinds of puns that you see in like traditional.
See, I asked about charisma early on, and I asked about taunting and stuff, and you said that wouldn't count because it need to have something specific in the environment. So
yeah, totally.
I did ask about that, so that's why I was kind of like, it relies just on Dex effectively.
Yeah,
like I could see the perks behind others, but they were rare.
I think for future development, probably I would want to expand swashbuckling to make use of maybe any stat if you can justify it.
I think there's also
I really like the idea.
It also makes advantage very, very easy to come by, which generally is pretty tough in 5th edition. Not super tough, but it's relatively tough.
You're only supposed to be able to get advantage if you beat the check by 5 or more. So, like, one of the reasons it makes it a little bit easier to come by is because with the change to inspiration, you can't get advantage from inspiration anymore. So it's like swashbuckling replaces inspiration. Inspiration becomes super pirate's fortune thing. So maybe there's tweaks to be made that reduce the strength of advantage from swashbuckling, and also expand it to use multiple different ability skills. So yeah.
Yeah, I just think like if there were more ways. Obviously, like the end was easier for me because I had the dog, but I think prior to that, I didn't really have a lot of opportunities unless there was something in the environment to utilize.
Yeah.
And often it kind of sucked for me because it would put me in melee combat, and I didn't want to be in melee combat.
Yeah, especially as like a ranged character.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Pirate's Fortune, I feel like, was way more rare than.
Yeah.
Which I like. Even this whole episode, or the whole season, 9 episodes, I was only able to use 1.
Yeah, totally. Well, we had 3 get used, and then someone held on to theirs. Who still has Pirate's Fortune? Yeah.
I was about to use it twice, and then the 2 times I decided not to, and then I rolled a 20.
Probably to make an update to that rule, I would just make it be usable when you get 3 points instead of 5 points, and then it's like, and then it feels a little more present, like something that
because it's already hard enough to get because you have to like put yourself in danger, which is not always available.
I would also say that maybe if you had the ability to just trade in 1 point of Pirate's Fortune for an automatic pass, but it's not a crit, so you can, instead of making the test, you can be like, I can just spend a point of Pirate's Fortune to just get an auto minimal pass. And that way you've got the choice about whether you want to save up or whether you want to just use it to get a normal pass in a tough situation.
Yeah, interesting. Having other ways to spend Pirate's Fortune that are interesting. And
that way you've got 2 simple dichotomies. Like, it's not a complicated list, but you've just got a simple dichotomy of save up for 3 or just use once.
Yeah, totally.
I think the ship stuff was really easy and straightforward, and that worked
I think when we get to the ship combat, once we got our head around it, it was quite easy. And it worked really well. That was one of the few times that I was just like, I am totally in the zone here. Everything is super steampunk and piratey. This is completely not normal Dungeons & Dragons, and it's completely the thing.
And I think Fate Burn worked really well.
Yeah.
Obviously, we didn't get to use like the higher tiers of it because the higher tiers of it are definitely nicer.
I generally is a bit wary of Fate Burn for PCs because health for PCs is so much more valuable than general damage because you tend to have a lot less health and a lot more damage.
It's definitely a risk.
Yeah.
Like maybe in some cases not worth the risk, or in a majority of cases not worth the risk, if that makes sense.
Fate Burn is
Definitely
actually
dangerous.
Yeah. Fate Burn is actually more for the game master than for players. Like the thing that it's supposed to do is, I've often had a situation in Dungeons and Dragons where like most of the people in the fight are at half health or less, but we know it's going to take forever, and we know the players are going to win because like the damage output is very predictable. And so Fate Burn lets me as the game master say, let's strip away health from the enemies that they're facing so that the fight ends faster. And then also allow these creatures to put that health into damaging the players so that it feels less like a foregone conclusion, right? So yeah, like it's definitely not as valuable for players, though it was interesting when y'all chose to use it.
Yeah, it was very rarely that you'd want to use it as a player. Like maybe if you're just at the 50% marker and you have a decent pool, I think maybe, but otherwise like like that'd be so dangerous for me starting off. Like later as we got higher levels, I got more HP, but I rolled really bad in the beginning.
Yeah, totally.
It was an interesting thing for me because I never used it till today, and that's because I received a weapon that was powered by Fate Burning.
Yeah.
And like every time I Fate Burn, I power up the Vineheart Scimitar, so I'm like, okay, now this is a pretty cool thing to do. Only reason I wasn't doing it non-stop from when I got the sword is because it's objectively worse than
Yeah, I need to for future things, I need to make sure I give you a weapon.
I think that the problem with that is that not that it's a scimitar. Like the scimitar would have been good for anyone who uses a weapon. It would have been maybe okay even for me, even though that I don't use a scimitar generally. I think the issue is just that as a magician, you use your magician things, or you're a bear. Like a scimitar for you is like a third limb. You're like, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah, probably I should have allowed you to cast Shillelagh on the scimitar, and then also been like, yeah, if you fate burn into the scimitar and then transform, the magical bonus of the scimitar applies to your weapons as a bear.
Yeah, I think generally when you give somebody an item, it needs to be equal or better than what they have already. Otherwise, they're like, I'm not going to use it type of thing.
Totally. I didn't realize that Shillelagh was a cantrip, so I was like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think if I could cast Shillelagh on the scimitar, it'd be amazing, because if I compare it to like a non-boosted quarterstaff, then it's definitely better.
Awesome.
You know what you could have done? You could have got a shield and used a shield. That would have helped your AC, mate.
I guess. As long as it's all made of wood.
Always down.
You did die a lot. Well, not die, but like go unconscious a lot.
It was amazing how predictable certain like stats of the dice were. Like Jen's rolls were just ridiculous the whole time, and then Bentham was so predictably quite low or dead.
I mean, that wasn't generally the rolls. That was generally because you had an AC of what, like 13?
13.
So did I.
Rough.
I say it's 13 or 14. It's 15 now, but I got better armor.
Yeah, which means that you're going to be hit more than half the time by those dogs, right? The dogs are like a +6 or 7.
And I did go down twice, I think.
A +5, so half the time.
Well, 3 times.
You got me good though with the magic damage, Steven. Because like with my shield, I was like, I'm never going down. Because I can just pop a +5 AC. Like I always had at least 2 more backed up. And if I did pop it, then I would also recharge my ward. So it was like, come at me.
Yeah,
and
those
the magic damage, I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, that
I
Naga
was
was weak.
invincible, untouchable.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry I rolled the wrong dice, obviously, for the 8d8 instead of 8d6. Because it had been long enough, I just wanted to keep moving with the story. But
actually, can you roll 8d6 now, just so that we can see if like?
Oh yeah, like roll it now, just so we can see it. But I think
maybe on the ship as you sail off, Vermilion actually goes.
I was thinking about it, and like if you were making an adjustment from
34.
34 would have still been.
34 would actually still have killed you.
What is my
HP? It would have still killed me.
32. So yeah, it would have killed me.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it, and I think if you would wanted to adjust a roll you'd already made, then if you went from D8s to D6s, you would drop by 1 per die, right?
Yeah, basically.
So the way of doing it would be take 8 off the roll.
Yeah, so it was like what, 45 down.
45.
Which I think was still definite death.
Yeah.
So and even now, just rolling there. Yeah. But I actually I don't know how that was for you, Enter Elysium. I hope you feel good about the way that.
I think it was a dramatic ending.
I don't know. I'm just saying
really
that Vermilion never got to do
the way you
anything
described
badass.
it. I like the way that you described your death too. It was epic.
It made sense. But I'm just sad that he never got to do anything epic at all.
Wait, hang on. You blew up an entire ship.
Yeah.
I mean, we blew up a ship.
Yeah. I don't know.
Tinder was far more badass. Tinder single-handedly walked away from defending one location by himself.
If he hadn't opened the suit at the end to like go and talk to all of us, when he went off, I was going to be like, are we sure it's actually Miller in there? Like, did we lose Miller at some point and this is some other guy?
Yeah, right.
Why wouldn't we open it up to check if he's alive?
I think Miller was the coolest thing.
I loved how you just like got him on a whim, and then he became like this
Super important character. He became.
People really liked him.
Like the suit made him like perfect. Like for the ending, it was just so good to have him in the suit.
I had a lot of fun with that. Well, and also like So like I was presenting a choice to y'all at the end of the game, right? It's like, okay, you've saved the widow. Do you want to save Margie or Edna?
Yeah.
And then you managed to actually go encounter the Lionessa and also save Edna by splitting off Miller Collins and sort of spending.
See, I didn't see it like that because the locations we'd already tactically said, right, we need to defend the docks. The shipyard, we're just going to abandon it, just get rid of anything we need there and just leave it.
Yeah, so it's
although there were people there, I just saw it as a tactical decision.
Yeah, it's not about like, yes, you're right. It's more about like who is involved in the defense that you keep alive, right? Because like
I saw that just as a side effect.
I think we were trying to get to the docks, we just couldn't get there.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no, we could have opted not to do that fight. I think you said that we didn't have to do the fight. I was like, nope, doing that fight because that's gotta do that. That's a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like, there's not even any point trying to persuade the captain not to get into this fight.
Yeah, and I think all of us are like gonna do whatever the captain wants to do, pretty much.
You had a certain amount of
grudge. I do
like
still hate Billingsworth, so I'm probably just gonna go along with it and blame the captain if it goes wrong.
I just always think of Bob's Burgers, and I just like want to go watch it again.
Yeah.
Is there any spells or things that you guys wanted to do with your characters that you didn't get to do?
Good question.
Yes.
What?
Use them.
What spells and abilities did you want to use?
I actually wanted to use web properly.
Okay.
Because level 3 Sorcerer
like
is where it takes off, and I just got level 4, but I multi-classed one in Warlock here at home. So I finally got my meta magic and my level 2 spells. I was like, yeah, I have meta magic and level 2 spells. Got to use the Dragon Breath, which was okay. And I was like, yeah, I can use the web thing. That's really cool. And I'll make it like an electricity net, and we'll go with the net, even though that like mirror image is better. I opted not to go for mirror image because Sarah got it. I was like, you know, it's great. It's not in concentration, but I can do web, and that'll be funny. And I got to use it, and then it just
most sense because you literally spent like a full 20-30 minutes trying to net somebody with a tent.
Yep. The Leviathan beast.
Yep. Hey, I got it with a sleeping bag, right? I got it with bedroll or something.
Yes.
I never got to use jump. I had this spell.
Nobody gets to use jump. It's hardly ever used. That's why.
What is jump?
Double your jump range, right? Oh, tripled. Okay.
Yeah. I was going to use that if we got into ship combat and like jump back and forth or something.
Nice. Yeah.
That's actually pretty cool. In the setting, it gets a lot more powerful.
Yeah. With the specific setting, I thought it would be fun. Like
Until you
in her case, she has like jump jet boots or something like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
I love
really cool.
I love the theming of all of your spells as like devices that you had built, like when you had the gnome that healed yourself and the Rubik's Cube.
I like the idea that maybe they're not jump jet boots because it's only a jump. Maybe like Shell's boots at a portal, just like you bounce really far. You're like, boing.
Yeah, I love the idea of having like a steampunk, like artificer type of character. So I was like, oh, if you let me make all the abilities thematic to items like that, it's gonna be so much fun.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's fun to describe them.
Yeah.
I think that as far as other rules go, like the ship maintenance and ship damage stuff like was fine, but I think that for me personally, I didn't really like the experience stuff. But I think it was because maybe it was because we started with low experience, so we started at low level, and then we like were fighting like really hard things. So I was like, I don't know how this feels to me, but just the idea that we have to like gain all this treasure and then bring it back. I like the idea and concept, but when it's being played out, it goes for like long periods of time where you just don't have levels.
I mean, a lot of it is based on when you're doing a thing with the ship. So we spent a lot of time on Vault and doing things on Vault, and it was like this is actually making no difference to our level up, which is fine to an extent. But a lot of it was like, why are we just on Vault? Can we just go and do something with the ship? It's the only thing that gets the stuff.
So I think it would work really well if you have like a very episodic episodes where it's like every episode you leave a port, you do a thing, and you come back to port. Like if that was how the thematic, if that was how every episode was, I think then that would make a complete sense. But because it's not that way, it made for many weeks of not getting experience.
So just so you know, you actually leveled up at the same rate that you would have if you had been getting experience points for fighting the fights that you had fought. I actually tracked it very carefully. You had enough fights to gain each of you 300 experience points when you brought back 1,000 gold.
We probably would have hit level 2 in the first episode, though, rather than having to wait 5. We fought Billingsworth and a bunch of guys, right?
No, I mean, yeah, I think you did, but you definitely wouldn't have leveled up from that.
Really?
Like,
level up to level 2 is really low.
It's 300 points. You'd be surprised. Like that fight was probably worth like 300 experience points itself, but divided 4 ways, right? Yeah. Like level one actually just takes a long time to get through. And actually, like, yeah, it does. It always has for a lot of my Dungeons and Dragons games, just because people are lower and they move slower and things like that. The reason that I like it is because I feel like it gets people starting to learn their characters and like getting into them a little more. But you know, I totally understand that not everybody feels that way.
Yeah, maybe I'm just one that doesn't feel that way, but it makes sense because like I usually always start my campaigns like when I'm DMing or part of it, usually at like a higher tier, at least like level 3 or 4, because I feel like you have more utility as a player versus like starting at level 1, you do not have much on your plate to do anything.
Level 3 is another common like starting point for
because I feel like you have a little bit more utility.
I like starting at level 1, but that's probably because I'm new to D&D, so I'm still learning the stuff as I go, which means that like it's like just give me the minimum amount to start with, and I'll get used to that. Then give me a level's worth of stuff, and I can deal with that.
I can totally understand that.
See, level 4 was where my character actually came online, and actually I could do stuff. So I was like, level 4, I'm done.
I'm at level 3, to be honest. Like, it's the spot where you have like quite a few options, but not so like. I feel like when you played the level 14 campaign, it's just like so many things. It's like, oh wait, I do this and then that, and then my bonus action and then my +2, and then the back attack, and then it's a Tuesday, so I also activate my. It's like Jesus, okay. Next player now.
But that's the fun part of being like a high level, and you don't get that very often. So it was a fun like one-off type of thing.
No,
That
like,
was the thing with doing
fun, but I couldn't imagine myself just doing that every episode. Just like...
That was the thing with doing the level 14 one-shot, of I had to chart out my abilities and what they related to, so that I could be like, okay, I've got a bonus action. Let me check the list. Okay, there's nothing I can use there.
Nice.
I mean, as a rogue, you literally have like 3 choices, right? Disengage, dash, hide. That's it. That's it.
I'm gonna look for the chart.
There's nothing else.
He made his own chart.
I had to keep track of what was pertaining.
Dip, dive, and dodge.
It's
Shape, shine, shadow.
I had like any abilities
Silhouette.
pertaining to main actions, anything pertaining to move actions. I've lost it though, so.
Hide, disengage, dash as a rogue.
Yeah.
You guys spend most of your time like shopping.
This was my list.
Offhand attack, but you didn't use an offhand attack?
Got actions, bonus actions, reactions, free actions, non-combat abilities.
That's a good way to put it. So you can
That's a good list.
Yeah.
I was like, I need this, otherwise every move I'm just gonna be like, I do an attack, I don't know what else I could do, skip it.
No, you did good. Every time I came to your
As a rogue, that's basically what you do, right?
I like low levels, because it's like, you know everything you can do in a turn.
I know everything I can do in a turn, even at level 14, even though that episode was like 3 weeks ago.
Well, that's because you've been playing for like 10 years or whatever.
I played Dungeons and Dragons for only 5th edition, and I've only played pretty much mostly Roll4It. Maybe 1 or 2 other things, but
that hasn't been that long. It's only been you guys haven't been 3.
Well, I guess I'm just slow then.
I agree with you, Benson. I've been playing for 5 years, and I don't know. When I get to a high-level character, I don't feel like as engaged with it, and I like testing the limits of every single little thing I have. And I feel like many things I don't get to explore as much.
Have you ever played a high-level character that you've grown to that level naturally?
Like level 6 or something.
Okay, right. Yeah, I would be wondering. I would wonder how you would feel if you played through a campaign that ended around like level 16.
Yeah.
All the way from level 1.
Because I've played up to level 21, 22, and it was an amazing experience because you got the experience of starting lower, right? And you worked your way up.
Yeah, I would probably like it at that point.
Yeah. One of the
if I played up to 14, then I think I'd be fine.
Oh yeah, it's definitely harder to drop in
things
at 14.
one at a time.
Oh yeah.
Give me time to get used to it all before I get the next step.
I think
one of the weird things about 5th edition is that the Dungeon Master's Guide proposes that there should be 8 encounters per day, So you should fight through 8 encounters before you take a long rest.
I think that Wizards have got a lot of stuff right with 5th edition. Yeah, no. I think Wizards have got a lot of stuff right with 5th edition, and I think that very little of their advice is just iffy. But that's one of the things where I'm like, that's just not iffy. That's just bollocks. That shouldn't just sod off. Like, who is going to be like, you should have 8 fights a day?
7 encounters of that 8 are like one person.
They're supposed to be medium to
be
hard
tiny.
encounters.
Yeah, they're meant to be like
tiny things.
Yeah, you're meant to fight like, you know, 4. Right, if you're 4 level 1 characters, you're meant to fight a bear 8 times.
Yeah.
Like by the time you got to like the 3rd one, I feel like I'd be like, okay, I'm out of spells, I'm out of all my one use abilities. I've got like one thing left because I've regained it in a short rest.
Also,
I've got no dice.
What world are you in that you in 24 hours spend 8 fights, each one averaging a couple of minutes long? What world are you traveling through?
Yeah,
no one would live in this world. Everyone would be dead. There would be no trade because most villagers are level 1 characters.
So
Who lives in this world?
In response to that, I kind of wondered, Jen, if you were playing a level 16 character that you leveled up naturally all the way from level 1, and you were actually pushing yourself through as many encounters as you're quote unquote supposed to get through, maybe you would feel like you're running up against the edge of your character's capability.
Probably. Right.
And actually, so like the game that I'm running offline now is trying to like push players in that direction of like go as far as you can. Don't leave the dungeon because if you leave, it resets.
Yeah.
So like I'm interested to see how that goes, but I've always found that really weird that Dungeons & Dragons proposes 6 to 8 encounters per adventure.
I think like all the campaign that I did that I got up to 21, 22, like some people I think ended at level 14, but some people were like 22, 21. It was all based on attendance when you got experience, or if you could get somebody else to play your character to get you experience. And I think like a lot of our stuff was like we were in dungeons and we were taking rests inside dungeons because like it was so much content going on and so many things. And I think sometimes we had to split up because we had 14 people in that campaign. It's insane. But it was like a bunch of people sitting around having fun. So no one cared that they were waiting like 13 turns for their turn. I don't know. I think people would enjoy it if you got to. And we don't actually get to see a lot of those campaigns. So
well, I think the problem with those abilities are if you're not playing 8 stupid encounters a day, if you're playing like 1 or 2, maybe 3, but they're small. I think the point with those abilities is not to be able to use all of them or even to think to use all of them. They're like, most of them are pocket abilities used in niche circumstances. Like this is, if there are a crap ton of enemies, or this is if we're having a fight at night in a full moon. Like you're not meant to remember most of them. Those are like your pocket abilities for situational stuff. And
I think as a GM, I think it's fun to like look at those abilities and then try to create situations where specific the niche ones are usable, right? And then it's on the players to remember to use them.
See, I reverse that as a player. I'm like, so this really crappy ability, how can I make this usable? And then I make a character based around using hand crossbows at level 14 and an illusory double to be able to actually do damage. Which I never used because I didn't realize we were standing next to someone. I was shooting at someone 400 foot away.
So I want to ask, since it's the final after show of Pirates of the Broken Skies, what was each of your favorite moments over the course of the last 10 episodes?
Ship fight.
Ship fight? Awesome. Just the whole thing?
I mean, pretty much that we had like a 10, 15-minute debate about, can we take this fight? Okay, let's try it.
Yeah.
Well,
and then we got to that point where we were super damaged.
Steven enticed us into doing it, actually. He's like, well, if you do this, I'll give you this. And we're all like, okay.
Well, we were doing well at dodging, and we were like, right, we've injured them a fair bit. And then we took one broadside, and we were like, right, we're going to have to go. We've already decided to take this fight. We're going to have to play the cards. Either we just leg it now, or we board. And we were like, let's try the boarding thing. We rolled hard, and then Zinzi
I definitely liked javelining.
That's the type of linen.
Javelin, the captain. That was,
yeah. That was wicked.
That made that fight so much faster.
Yeah.
But I had to use my pirate's fortune for that because I'm not as lucky as Jen.
It's just insane.
She would have been like, let's just roll it.
Bentham, what about you?
I I think the sort of like the image I like the most, like in the mental like movie that plays, was the blowing up of the ship just before the fight. Of the captain leaping from it as the whole top of it like detonated, and the whole ship lurches and everything, and there's debris raining down. The ship swings underneath and stuff. Is like that. That's piratey. I like
Two
that.
of you running away, and then the Lavault engines exploding inside of the ships as well.
That was cool too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like explosions. Explosions are cool.
See, where I sabotaged the ship, I was like, I knew I had a pirate's fortune hopefully coming, and as soon as I had it, I was like, this is fine, I can always use that to get away or whatever. So for me, I was like, I understood there was a certain amount of safety net there, but bit where we went in for the ship fight, that was us rolling hard, and we were like, we're gonna try it, and that's why I felt that was epic. Like, we didn't know what was gonna happen there.
Yeah.
The ship blowing up the ambush thing, that was cool as well, because we knew we gave up that ship that's very valuable, and we didn't have a certainty. We just had planned quite a lot of stuff for it.
Yeah, you made a good plan. And Jen, what about you?
Senior executive assistant Miller Collins.
Just everything, every scene.
Well, no, when he got the exosuit.
Okay, yeah, badass.
I like that he
I
went
am
from,
senior
like,
executive assistant Miller Collins, executive assistant to Sarah Smallwick, shield bearer, also known as Tinder.
I like that, like, he came as like a little flimsy NPC that I was like, he'll never be able to hit the thing and probably die in one shot. To like being like, leave me behind. I'm in this exosuit with a shield, and I will fend the fort with enemies.
The only reason he was
seemed
able to
almost like stronger than us at that moment. I was like, he's the one protecting us.
He wasn't able to do any of that until Zinzi made it happen.
Yeah,
so that was awesome.
And yeah, actually, I loved all the contraptions and little gadgets I got to make. That was a lot of fun.
That was super awesome. And also, like, I was like, okay, she can definitely repair either the dog or the suit. And then depending on how well she rolls, maybe the second one. And you rolled really well, which meant you got both of them. So yeah, that was
we were
badass.
like, you have to roll a 21, which is just, that's a lot.
It's pretty high.
Exactly a 21.
Yep, that was a really great moment.
And that was 100 gold well spent for advantage on the first roll for that.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I would not have made it if I didn't have the advantage. And even that, the dog didn't didn't work as well.
It didn't do too much, but it definitely did a little bit of damage, soaked a little bit of damage, and it also gave you advantage a number of times. So like, yeah.
No, it was awesome.
Super rad.
Okay, I think that's a good point to end the after show then. It's been going on a bit, so thank you very much to everyone for watching and supporting the series, and thank you to everyone for making the series an amazing thing off the cast and the GM. So thank you very much. We're gonna go. Hopefully you enjoyed this after show, and of course you can catch more on this YouTube channel, or you can catch us live on Twitch at the times, which I'm sure will be somewhere below in the description, so you can check those. We have Cheese Quest and Layla coming up, and the continuation of Code 2050, so hopefully you'll enjoy those things. But until next time, may the dice roll over in your favor. And I have my cursor on the wrong screen, so this will take a second. There we go. Bye.